And we are going to start sharing screen. Okay, hold on. I need to get us the all in here. Admit all. Okay. And I remember last week we talked most part of this example. This example is exception example 3. Okay, and yeah, so over here we mostly see how to read from file and how to write from file, write to file in different ways. And last week, I remember we also explained the file not found exception is checked exception. Because it is checked exception, so that's why we need to put it in the try-catch block. So you need to have some way to deal with checked exception, okay? And let's take let's a quick review that read from file method. So the read from file method. So here we focused on the file processing now, okay, not exception. So if the file not exist anyway, you need to throw the file not found exception, okay? And if the file does exist, okay, so what we over here for reading, for file reading, we use scanner. Previously, you remember you can also use scanner to get input from keyboard, is it? So over here, we use scanner to get input from file, okay? So then you have the, so this is a file object. Hold on, to admit. So this is a file object. And for the file, it's Java data, so it's from java.io.file. So you use this file class to associate it, associate with a physical file. Is it? Then we have the file object here, is it? And then we create a scanner object. And with the scanner object, then you can do has next and the next, is it? And here we do line by line reading. Then you can do has next, and then you do next line, is it? So over here, scanner can be used to do line by line reading, okay? So that's the first read. And let's take a look at the second file read. Is it? So same thing, we're still going to use scanner. So here it just shows if you use, it's pretty similar as what we did with from the input from keyboard, is standard input. So here you can also do has next, is it? Then you can do next, is it? Next. And you can also use next integer, is it? So generally speaking is for scanner, it can use regular expression to do input, okay? Because here we can clearly see, is it? You can read a line or you can read a single, this is a string, is it? You read a string, is it? And over here, what we read an integer, is it? So you can use scanner, is it? Once you associate the physical file with a file object, then you can go ahead to use scanner to do reading, okay? And then let's see the writing, is it? So similar as the scanner, but over here is we are going to do a writing, is it? So for writing, then you use print writer, okay? So print writer. And print writer, so we can do formatted output. Okay, this is similar as we do system.out, okay, .print, is it? So pretty similar. So over here is you write to a file, is it? So this is just print. And you can also call print line, okay? But over here, be careful, is you can also do formatted output, okay? So this is regarding, so this is print writer, okay? And then you can write formatted output to a file. And next, let's see. So we already learned that for input, you can input from standard input output, standard I/O. Is it? So that means you get input from keyboard, is it? And you output to what? To monitor, is it the standard input? And we also learn file I/O, is it file input and file output, is it? And over here, we will see it's a difference from internet, is it? So you can also deal with network I/O, is it input and output? But this is from URL. Okay, URL. So this URL string, so this string, this is the address, is it internet address, so URL address. Okay. And for this function, we are going to read from the URL. Is it? And we have two array list, okay? And it's a string, both array lists are going to be string. So let's see, how do we associate? So first you need a URL object. So it's from java.net.url, okay? And then you plug in with the address, okay, address. And here you can see with scanner, is it? So you can, then we can open that address, is it? Open that internet address. So you call the URL, then open string, okay, open string. And then you can use a scanner to associate with it. So once you have scanner, and then you can do the same thing as you can do next line, is it? Or next int, as what we previously, it's exactly the same, okay? Because anyway, it's scanner. So over here, you can see scanner can also be used to deal with network string, is it? So the data coming in from some internet or network, is it? And then you can just use scanners, has next and the next line, next, is it? And over here, then what we do, so for each line, we read from that address, is it? We're going to add it to the array list. So this O is array list. We're going to add it to array list. And we are going to add it to the second array. So this is second array list. Array list, is it? And we are going to do what? So in that line, if there is a Java, we are going to replace it with a llama, is it? So the second array list will have all of the line. If there is Java, it's going to be replaced with llama. So that's what this function does. And if we take a look, we can also see, is it? So over here for the URL object, is it? And you also need to, because you see, you also need to deal with if there is any exception, is an exception. So here it shows we may have malformed URL, so wrong address, is it invalid? And then you may also have some input and output string handling error, is that exception? So over here it shows both exceptions, that if there is any one kind of this listed expression and this catch block will catch that. So this is to show that we can also read from URL, okay, from internet. So here is our first quiz question. So quiz 1, is it? Quiz 1 is with the scanner. for reading, is it? And we learned 3 ways, is it? We use standard input, is it? And we also see file input, is it? And here we see from URL, is it? Input. So here is our quiz 1 question. Okay, so you need to write a scanner can deal with these 3 types of input. Okay, it's not just from keyboard. Okay, can you write your answer to our chat, and make sure send it to me. Okay, privately to me.
Excuse me, what's the question once again?
So the question is, today we saw that a scanner can also be used to get input from file and get also input from URL. And previously we learned get input from standard in from keyboard. So you just write a scanner can deal these 3 types of input. Everybody got it? Finish it? No, we totally have 20, but we only have 18 answers. So anyone not answered? I'm going to erase this and move on to the next part. So I will erase. So if you haven't if you haven't sent your quiz answer to our chat, you need to do it quickly. Okay, so I'm going to clear out. Okay, and then let's go back. So that's and then you remember here is that's a case. It's just a regular file. It's a text file, and you create the file object. Is it? And then we just use a scanner to open the file. Is it? And for the second case, it's similar. That is, one is read line, the other is just to show you can do read a string and read integer. That, and over here we show that. So this is our URL. That's the address. Is it? And then we can read from the URL. Is it URL? And over here, it lists all of the replaced lines. Let's run it to take a look at the result, okay? Yeah, if you take a look, you see it did get input from that address. Is it from that address? Is it? So it did show, is it? You get from the address. And yeah, did you see it get Java replaced with Llama? Is it? So all the Java with Llama, is it? Yeah, so it did work. Okay, so you can try, okay, after class, if you want to read something from internet and do some processing. So this is the very, very basic way, okay? Then you can associate that URL address, is it, with scanner, is it? And then you can do like line by line or word by word or some other formatted input. Okay, so this example shows the 3 ways that we use scanner. Okay, and next, let's see, we are going to see a different way. Next example. So we move to file I/O now. Okay, not exception. So for file, so today the first is we are going to deal with byte streams. Okay, the byte streams. So byte, and you may already learn from some other class, is that 1 byte is what? It's 8 bit. Is it 1 byte is 8 bit? So you can also use byte system to do input and output, okay, input and output. But generally speaking, byte system, okay, the byte string. So byte string is a lower level input and output. Okay, lower level. And here are the 8 bits. Okay, so it's not limited because it's byte string. So it's not limited just to character. Okay, so you can also use it to deal with like audio. Is it audio file? So because it's only says 8 bits, it's a byte. Okay, so it will read byte by byte. But because of a character is also 1 byte. Okay, so that's why over here it can also deal, so that text file, generally speaking, it's a plain text file. Text file, so it contains characters, characters. So we can also use byte string, but later on we will see, because byte string is the lower level I/O. Okay, so it's a lot of slower. Okay, it's slower. So there's some other best way to use called character string, but that's a later example. But anyway, let's first take a look this lower level. How do we deal with? So over here we need to import file input string and the file output string. Okay, so just remember the file input string and the file output string, they used to deal with byte string. Okay, byte string. So over here, we are going to have the user read a file from file and write to file. We just have this two simple question, okay? So let's see over here. For the first function, we call it read from file. Is it the parameter is a file name, and this method throws an I/O exception. Okay, so it throws an I/O exception, and initially we create a file input stream variable. Okay, and initially we assign it to null. Okay, assign it to null. And then we are going to associate it with a file input stream object with the specific physical file. So this is that physical file name. Okay, file name. And then you associate with this file input string. The file input basically is going to be a byte string. So it's read 8 bits. So each time when it read 8 bits. Okay, 8 bits, okay. And so it's 8 bits, it's a chunk to read, is it? So over here, how do we then you associate this? Is a file, this byte stream object, it's a file input stream object, is it? With this variable input stream, is it? Then we are going to do letter by letter reading. Okay, letter by. And here, if you take a close look, you will see here the C is an integer. Okay, so over here it's called read method. Okay, so related with byte string, we read 1 byte at a time. Is it? Which method do you use to read? It's called read. What read returns? So based on this statement, what do you think the read method returns? What does it return?
Integer.
What's the return type? What is it? Anyone? I heard someone answer.
Integer.
Yeah, it's an integer. Is it? Yeah, so it's an integer. So this is our second quiz question, okay? The file input string its read method return type is what? So what's the return type for file input streams read method?
String.
Yeah. What's the return type? String? Someone answer it's a string?
Yeah, that's what I said.
No, that's not string. If you take a look,
Integer.
if you take a look at this,
Yeah.
get it? The return to C here, assigned to C. What's the C type? What's the type of C?
Integer.
Yeah, so it should be what? It should be string? You remember for scanner. Okay.
So it wouldn't be character because that's if it.
It's an integer. Yeah, it's an integer. So that's why, did you see over here, when you do system.out.print, over here we cast it. Is it we cast it? Because in ASCII system, is it?
Oh, so it returns the ASCII code of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, basically, yeah. So character is ASCII code, yeah. Okay, and you cast it, then it's the corresponding letter, is it? And you remember for scanner, it's next. What's the return type? Who still remember?
String,
Yeah, that's a string.
but it's only one word.
Yeah, but only one word. Very good. Okay. Anyway, this is we just answered the second question, is it? Then the third quiz question is scanner's next method return type, and how many word it returns. So there are two parts. Okay, the return type and the number of words. That's a third quiz question, okay. Okay, then let's see next. So over here, you see, inside of a try block, we don't have any throw, is it? But this method, it throws an IO exception. And previously we learned, is it, for file handling, generally speaking, it's checked exception. Is it? So check, you must handle it in your code. Is it? Otherwise it won't compile. Is it? So over here, because this method, is it? It throws the IO exception. Is it? Because over here, if there is a problem, the try block will basically throw the IO exception. Is it? So this method that it throws that exception. So that exception anyway in main, we have that corresponding try catch. Is it? So we have the catch to catch this exception. So it's handled. Okay, it's just not explicitly handled here with a try catch block. Okay, but it's handled. Anyway, and we have try, but we don't have catch here. Is it? Then we just move to finally. Is it? And we close the file. Is it? So this is also fine because anyway, here it deals, the method throws the exception. Okay. But also always remember to close file. Okay. The file, you need to close it when you don't need to use it anymore. Okay. But you remember last class, we said if you use that to try with resource, then you don't need to explicitly do close, is it? Okay, so anyway, this is read using byte string, okay? Next, let's see. So correspondingly, same thing. You can also write with byte system. So write with byte string. And over here, did you see we always mention the string? Is it? Yeah, so it's a kind of flow, is it? So you can get, we always just see like a standard input, standard IO string, is it? And the file string, file IO string, is it? And you can also get network IO string, is it? Yeah, different ways. Okay, anyway, so for byte stream for writing, then you can use a file output string. Okay, file output. So similar, you associate your physical file, is it, with the file output string to create an object. And here we have a sentence, is it? We have this 2-line sentence. Then what did we do? You see, each time you call the write method. Is it write what? Write with a single byte, 1 byte at a time. Okay, 1 byte at a time. So read and write here. A matching for reading and writing, okay, for input and output. And then let's go back. So here's the read and write. And then in main, it's pretty simple. So you can also see in main, we have the corresponding catch block. Is it because the read from can throw that IO exception? The same thing for the write. Is it for the write? And we can run and take a, yeah, if we run it, is it? Over here, did you see you can get, so this is a context, our contact file. So we did get everything from the file. It's displayed here. So over here, because it's byte stream, so each time it's just read a single letter, okay? A single letter. A single, so 1 at a time, okay, 1 at a time. So this is called a byte string. But remember, okay, as we explained here, it's a low level one. So it's kind of slow, okay, for byte string. And then let's take a look at the second example. Oh, I need to stop sharing. And then let me move on to the second example. Okay, for the second example, okay, for our second example over here, we will see 3 different ways. The first is a character string. Okay, so for the bytes, it can also be used to deal with audio, is it? But for character string, it's specifically just for character input and output. Okay, input output. Okay, so this is character string, and we will also see line oriented. Is it a lot of time to deal with plain text? Is it you want to read line by line? As I read line by line, here it shows for line, we can so to identify a line, is it? So a line terminator, is it? It can be /r/n, is it? So that's carriage returned line feeder, is it? And you can also use single carriage return, is it? Or single line feeder. Okay, so that's the line terminator. Okay, line terminator. So that's the anyway. So here is regarding character stream, is it? And the third string we will learn is called buffered string. Okay, buffered string. So buffered string is, previously, I don't know if you still remember the word buffer. Anywhere else we learn buffer? Who still remember previously? We learn.
Buffer, string buffer.
Yeah, very good. Is it previously we learned string buffer? Is this? Yeah, so here it's, we call it a buffered string. Is it buffered string? So buffer string, so it's similar concept as string buffer, is it? So over here, it's not going to deal with letter by letter. Okay, so you're going to get a chunk of data, okay, a chunk of letters, and store them in some memory location. We call it a buffer, is it? And then you get that chunk. Each time you get the whole chunk together, okay, instead of individually. And this has a lot of benefits because each time, if you just do a single letter read or byte read, it sets each request. So each of your read and write, it will triggers either a disk access, okay? Because anyway, your file is stored in some disk, if you read from a drive, or network, or network, or some other operation, So there are too many this kind of access, and each access you just get 8 bits, and then it's not efficient because for buffer, then it's different story. So each time you get a chunk of that, get a chunk of that, and then you are going to do the I/O input and output from this place to deal with that chunk of bytes. Okay, so it's much more efficient. Okay, so that's the buffered reader and write. So let's take a look at the method that's deal with the different ways of reading and writing. Okay, so last time we dealt with byte string, So this read from file is pretty similar, But this time we use a different class. It's called file reader. Okay, so file reader will deal with character string. So this is character string. So it associates the file name with this object, okay? And then you can call read. It's still called read, Read a single letter, okay? Read a single letter. And what it returns, still returns the integer. Still return an integer? And you can cast it back to a letter, So pretty similar as the first example show with the byte, but this is character. So if you want to deal with plain text and letter by letter, and if you use file reader, it's better, okay? It's much more efficient than the byte system. So that's for byte, that's for character. And then second way we are going to learn is called buffered string. Buffer string. Okay, for buffer, so this is the second read method. For this second method, read method, so let's take a look. So you may see over here, so this is still that character string. Character string. Here is a physical file. So you have a character string object created. Created? And then you send it to the buffered reader. Buffer reader? So this buffered reader object, this object, and its constructor take what? Take a character string object. Okay, so over here it's that buffer, the chunk. So the buffer will hold what? Will hold a chunk of characters. Okay, so it's a number of characters together, okay, will be stored in the buffer. Okay, and then you're going to read from that buffer. Okay, read from that buffer, from that memory. And then over here, with buffer reader, then we can do read line. So you can also do line by line read. Okay, so if you have a line, as it will read the line, and over here is just standard output, as the output to our monitor to see the line. Okay, so you can see it's also pretty straightforward over here. Okay, so this is read a single character, and how do we use buffer reader as it, and we can also do line by line read. Okay, then next let's take a look at the corresponding write. Okay, so for the corresponding character string, and this is for write. Okay, for writing, is it? So it's associated with file writer. Okay, file writer. And so once you have the file writer object, is it? What you can do, you can just call the write to the file. Okay, write to the file. And here we use a for each loop, is it? So that's why over here you convert the string to a character array. Okay, so convert a string to a character array. Okay, to a character array. So that's what and then you letter by letter write. Okay, write to some file. And then next, let's see the next one. What we do here is it, so here we use a print write, is it? So print write, then over here, this is our byte, this is our character string, is it? Character string object. And you can do print write. So you plug in that character string object with print write, and then you can also do line by line writing. Okay, so here it just shows you can also use print write and then do line by line writing. Okay. And this is the second writing to the file. And then let's take a look at the third write to file. So the third write to file here, we use buffered writer. So similar as buffered reader concept, is it? So over here it's a chunk of letter you're going to write, is it? You're going to write. So over here, then you're going to do letter by letter write, is it? So from this sentence, is it? So you're going, oh, so over here is you write, each time you write a string, is it? Because this is an array of string. So you call the write, is it? And write can write a string this time, okay? And then let's take a look at the main part. So for the main part, we have some contact file, is it? And we read, is it? We read, and we have the second text file, and we also read. So let's first take a look at this two file. Okay, plain text file. So I need to stop the sharing and get to those two files. And the second one. This is second. Okay, let's take a look at the two text file. Okay, so the first text file, so this is the first contact file. Okay, so it's a plain text file that has name, address, email address, and age. So that's the first text file and separated by comma. And then the second text file, I need to reshare again. Second text file. Okay, the second text file, if you see, it's pretty similar, but this time it's separated by what? By space. Okay, so that's regarding these two files. And then let's go back to our coding. Is it? So for the first one, the contact text, is it? When we do the read, is it? So we do character string. So letter by letter read, and then it's just print out the file, is it? And for the second one, the contact two, is it? Contact two. What we did is we use buffered reader, is it? And each time here, we do line by line reading, is it? Line by line reading. And we can run this too. And if you take a look, is it? And it did get whatever the original file outputted here, is it? So this is regarding the character stream, is it? And the buffer stream. So today we learned the first example is byte stream. Okay, so for byte stream, you need to use file input and file output string. Okay, file input and file output string. Okay, and the related read and write method is it read and write method. Okay, so over here it's file input string and file output string. And then for character string and the buffer string, okay. So for character, we use file reader and file writer, okay? And it's use read and write, is it? And for buffer reader and buffer writer, is it? We use, for buffer string, we use buffer reader and buffer writer, okay? And for buffer, then you can also do read line by line. Okay, read line by line. Okay, so here is our today's last quiz question. Is for the byte string we already tested, is it? So now it's for character string. So the question is for character string. And here is a file character string. So which class related for file character string to handle input? Okay, so input file character string. So what is this class name? So that's our next quiz question. So can you send it to the, so it's what? It's a file reader. Is a file reader. Okay, then let's file reader. And then today we also learned buffered string. Buffered string, is it? For buffer string, to handle input, to handle file input here. So what is the name for the class to handle buffer stream for file input? It's what? It's buffered reader. Okay, can you write it? So it's a buffered reader. And then can we also compare the three streams that we learned? Is it we learned byte stream? Is it byte stream? And we also learned character stream. Character stream. Is it this three stream today we learned? So byte stream handles what? Handles a byte, a single byte. Is it? And it's low level I/O, okay, input output. So it's not that efficient, is it? Character stream, it handles what? A single character at a time. So compare with the low level byte stream, it's better, is it? But of course, it cannot handle audio file, is it? And for buffer stream, so it handles what? It's a chunk of. Is it a chunk of like if we over here plug in with file reader, is it? So it's going to be a chunk of characters. Is it? If we plug in with, so if depends on how you initiate with the constructor, okay? So in this case, in our example, it's a chunk of characters, okay? So that's the difference between these three. Can you also write down this part so that we know the difference among the three streams that we learned? And then that's all for today, okay? So we are almost done with file handling. I think you can start to work on your file handling labs and homeworks. So can you send this part also to the chat?
What do you want us to send?
Oh, just send what I wrote here. The comparison among the three different stream system, byte stream, character stream, and buffered stream. Because otherwise you may ask, what's the difference with all of this? Is it? And we also learned the scanner, basically, as a scanner can also deal with a file, is it? And the scanner is a little bit of like a buffer stream, but a scanner, buffer stream can, its buffer, the chunk can be much larger than scanner. Scanner used to deal with a small chunk of data, okay? So that's the difference between, so but that's just some side notes if you want to keep them in mind, okay? So here is a scanner. It's not required in our quiz, okay? But if you want, you can also check the difference between scanner and buffer stream. So scanner, the comparison of the chunk level is a smaller chunk, generally speaking. A chunk. Okay, and the buffered, it can take much larger. So much larger chunk. Okay, So that's the difference between these two, because then you may ask, then why do I need to use a scanner? Okay, why do I need to use buffer string? Is it so the difference between these two is one is a little bit of smaller. If you each time you want your buffer quite large, then you can use buffered string. Okay, then it's more efficient. For scanner, it's just small chunk. Okay, so that's a difference. Okay, so that's the major information for today. So we are finished, and because tomorrow we already discussed tomorrow we are not going to have lecture, so you're just going to review for your Thursday's exam. Okay, and the Wednesday and the Thursday we are still going to do lab discussion. And the Friday, we are going to have a lecture on new material. Okay, so that's the arrangement. Any other questions you have? Or everything is good?
So the scanner